Okay, thank you. I'll call this meeting of the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission to order, and the time is 8 o'clock on February 7th. It's we can all rise for the vote. Ready, Sweet. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And staff, if you want to go home.
Thank you. Commissioners Marchand,
Here.
Ariola,
Present.
Supervisor Ding had a conflict this morning and is unable to make it. Fugazi,
Present.
Morowitz, Zuber,
Here.
Vice Chair Craig.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Now, if we can move on to the next item, which is comment. Do we have any public comments online?
Seeing none online.
Okay, do we have any public comment in the room? Seeing none, we can move on to item 3. And I will note that on the consent calendar, we do have on item 3.3 a amendment sheet, so I would draw your attention to that. I asked if there's any, first off, is there any correction in minutes? I'd help do that separate here, 3.1. Any correction in minutes from the members?
I'll move consent.
You'll move.
Second.
Thank you. And I will actually ask that we, I had a conversation earlier, so before I about this second motion. I just note that on item 3.8, Washington update, if we can get an update on where we are with some of the funding and NOVA, and do we have any challenges that we're aware of moving forward in our grants and funding opportunities?
Well, good morning, commissioners. A lot of questions around that over the last few weeks. What I can say related to the Rail Commission itself, and remember, we're involved in different bodies, and so they're each affected differently. But in terms of the Rail Commission, there's nothing right now that we need to react to. There's a lot going on. There's issues that come up, there's issues that get challenged. And so we need to watch that shake out. They usually have a pendulum swing for them, and then they usually slow down and they end up in the middle. And I think we're best suited by watching for the middle and then deciding whether or not we take any action. There's no immediate funding in jeopardy at this moment. That's not to say it wouldn't change, but it is a fairly minor part of the Rail Commission's funding package. Has a little bit more impact on the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, who is a little bit more involved with the high-speed rail program in the Central Valley. So we'll address that separately through that board and carry that message back here when that sorts out. But I think we want to hold tight, we want to watch and see how things go, and we want to see when we go back to DC, what kind of messages we want to carry to keep supporting our programs here at home. And I know there might be some trips coming up, and as we get closer to those, we can certainly brief you on what the Rail Commission issues might be at that time, so that your information is fresh when you go back.
I appreciate Lisa Mortensen, because we do have some trips planned, and I always like to wear my rail hat when I'm in those meetings, notwithstanding if we're not specifically about that. So listed any key committees would be useful to have, so that I can share that with other members of the commission as they're planning. So,
Okay, and then I think we'll send that to you and then put that on the next consent calendar.
okay.
As those committees have shaken out, so I think we can do that, and the annual will have it.
I appreciate it. Okay, with that, I have a motion, a second, including 3.3 amended. Can I have a roll call?
Thank you. Commissioners Marchand,
Aye.
Ariola,
Aye.
Fugazi,
Yes.
Zuber,
Yes.
Vice Chair Craig.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
We are moving on to item 4, election of officers. Do we have any comments?
We'll do just a quick staff report. Next slide, please. This is just a little bit of history. Our bylaws outline the process for electing officers, chair and vice chair. It is stipulated that we do it in February. If you recall, last time I got out of the starting blocks a little early, put it on for the January agenda, and Jackie reminded me, no, we had a month that this needs to happen. Those roles are required to be filled by the regular voting members. And typically, how it's worked is board members have served in those roles is either time allows, they have special interest or expertise, or the program is at a certain place and board members are able to bring some assistance in that area. So there's really no hard and fast way that it has been done in the past, but it has always worked out very well, that staff has appreciated board members in those roles, and those of you who've been in those roles know we tap you a lot for some help. We're respectful of your time, but there is definitely a value of the interaction between the board officials and the staff as we go through our programs. Recently, the chair role was filled by Nancy Young, who's not on the board any longer, and the current vice chair is Lisa Craig Henson. And so with that, I'm happy to give you any more information you might need, or the board can have their own discussion about that.
Do we take public comment on this item? Do that first here, and then we'll come back for discussion. Any comments online?
Seeing none online.
Okay, any comment from the audience? Seeing none, I will entertain discussion from the board.
I don't know, if we do vice chair or chair first.
You can do
But
any order you would like.
let's do chair first, and then we do vice
Okay.
chair. Okay, so I recognize Commissioner.
I would nominate Vice Chair Craig Hensley, in the position of chair.
And Mr. Ariel seconds that. Okay, can we have a vote on that, please, roll call?
Thank you. This is for regular voting members only. Commissioners Ariola,
Yes.
Fugazi,
Yes,
Zuber,
Yes.
Vice Chair Craig.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'll entertain for a vice chair. Ms. Fugazi.
yes, I'd like to nominate the infamous Zuber. Continue in his role as the longest serving vice chair in the history of Rail.
Now, I've heard him referred to works and.
Should you say famous?
Thanks. Do I have a second? I will second that. So, with a motion and a second, can we do a roll call?
Thank you. Commissioners Ariola,
Yes.
Fugazi,
Yes,
Zuber,
Yes.
and now Chair Craig.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good, congratulations. Okay. Let's move on to what I think is going to be a very interesting discussion, 5, a day in the life of a passenger services representative.
Well, this is long awaited. Several of you have asked in the past about hearing more about what happens on board the ACE trains, what our staff experience, what they hear, what their day is like. We have some other members of the team that we'll make sure you introduce to later, but Haley is going to give you a snapshot of what a day in the life is like and the kinds of things that they hear, see, and do on the train.
Thank you.
Up to you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and members of the board. My name is Haley Joyner, and today I will be informing you guys on a day in the life of a PSR, or Passenger Services Representative. As a PSR, my day-to-day is filled with excitement and new challenges. As a passenger service representative, I represent one of our 19 determined individuals who work thoroughly to ensure that our passengers have a safe and enjoyable ride on our trains. The PSR department covers responsibilities on board the train, customer service, ticket sales, and our operations monitoring center, which means we are cross-trained in all areas of operation. The primary duties of a PSR on board the train are to walk the train thoroughly to verify tickets, answering questions about connecting transit options and scheduling. Every crew member is CPR and first aid certified, which equips us to respond effectively to critical situations. For example, if a passenger is experiencing a medical emergency, the crew can quickly assess the situation and provide assistance until medical professionals have arrived. We also have P&As, passengers needing assistance, whom we help on and off the train. We can aid a passenger with a wheelchair getting on the train by using one of our ramps, or we can help a mom get off the train with her stroller at the correct stop. We are committed to serving the community. At our stations, we prioritize seamless connections with passengers to reach final destination, knowing that these links are essential to running a smooth travel experience. At our Stockton and our San Jose station, we include direct connections to Amtrak, which enables passengers to access a long distance travel that is beyond our local transit. Our Pleasanton station connects passengers with our Wheels bus that transports various key our Wheels service that provides transport to various key points, including BART. And our 8 shuttles at our Great America station connects riders from Santa Clara to San Jose. A frequent source of issues arises stems from our passengers who are unfamiliar with our ticketing process. New riders may inadvertently forget to validate their tickets, leading to potential citations or misunderstandings. We approach these situations by being gentle and informing the rider of our validation process and the importance of this step. By providing a clear instruction, we can resolve the issue and also inform the rider for future journeys. Unlike typical interactions in other environments on the train and buses, often create a shared space where people from different backgrounds connect. We remember your schedules, we remember your seating placements, we remember your birthdays. We also celebrate your retirements and holidays together, which creates a family-like setting on the train. For example, we have a passenger named Simon. He is our unofficial welcoming committee for all new riders, and his stories are sure to keep you entertained, and his charm. And if you are so lucky, he will serenade you. We'll be ready. Increased ridership, while a positive indicator for success, often brings challenges. Overcrowding is a common complaint, leading to discomfort and negative experiences for passengers. The demand for bike cars is also an example. Passengers directly communicate this by highlighting the lack of sufficient bike cars and the inconveniences it causes. Requests for additional amenities like a cafe car, weekend services, and more shuttles to our Great America stop are being called for. A passenger has expressed that although the transitions from her prior commute to her new commute due to her new job has highlighted the benefits and the shortcomings of our current transportation options. It is her request to extend the red shuttle further to Mountain View. By doing this will help her commute. Before, her commute would end with the red shuttle, and from the red shuttle, she would take a 10-minute walk to her office. But now her commute consists of the red shuttle connecting to the Orange Line BTA stop, finishing with a 10 to 20-minute walk to her office now. By actively listening and addressing these concerns, we can demonstrate their commitment to customer service and foster a culture of continuous improvement. If you don't mind, I would like to tell you a quick story about my first day as a PSR. I woke up around 2:15 in the morning and I was paired with Holly for the day. And I would be shadowing her. I was excited to walk through our rail maintenance facility and meet our onboard crew. I was taking everything in, the view, the train, the passengers, everything was great. And I had survived my first day. But now I had to make it home. So me and Holly made our way back to San Jose Station to begin our evening trip home. We began our second trip out of Fremont and was shortly stopped due to kids playing in the tunnel. During this time, we walked along the train, asking questions and answering questions, and also getting a head count. During this time, we encountered a passenger who was in distress. It was her first time on the train and she was experiencing a panic attack. We comforted her to the best of our ability and told her we would try and help her any way we could. To make things worse, our trip delayed for over an hour. We continued to do a head count and periodically checked on her within that hour span until she settled. Within that hour, so much had happened. We communicated with our ops and our lead on board the train and our onboard crew. On top of that, we had to keep ourselves and our passengers calm. It was an eye-opening experience, how fast your day could change. After reflecting through the day, I can honestly say I was interested for more. In conclusion, a day in the life of a PSR at ACE is never dull or routine. It is a fast-paced, rewarding job, and it requires dedication, hard work, and commitment to providing excellent customer service. I am proud to be a part of the ACE family and take a role in providing smooth and safe transit. Despite the challenges we face, we are motivated by knowing that we are helping people effectively in the life of our passengers. Thank you. Any questions?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Just wonderful to have you here and appreciate you sharing this information with us, because in particular, your own story about your first day. Hopefully, no one else has to go through that every single time.
No.
First day starts.
No.
But it was a great learning experience, and thank you for returning for day two.
I would just say, let Simon know we all can't wait to meet
Ah.
him.
He can't wait to meet you either.
Yeah, come by when our meeting started at 8, so.
Okay.
Maybe we'll share a treat with
Yeah, he will bring the guitar, right?
Appreciate that. I actually have this one question. How many PSRs do we have?
Ms. Smith, how many PSRs? Because we have one more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a total of 19, including Samara, who is their supervisor,
Oh, okay.
Samara, and then Ono, who is their lead.
Okay, great.
And then special cameo appearances,
Yes.
right?
And Holly and
I'm
Jay.
Holly.
That's-
I was very
Well, I'm glad you came.
Yeah.
Wonderful to have you all here, and thank you all very much for what you do, because you are the first person that our customers see, and consistently, so, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if we can move on to item 6, we are looking to adopt a motion establishing a regular meeting date and time, so.
Yep, good morning. Staff sent out a poll for a new meeting time in response to board inquiry last meeting in January for holding the meetings at a later time on the first Friday. And so based on responses received back from the board, staff is recommending that you establish a new regular meeting time on the first Friday of every month at 9:30 a.m. And I will hand it back to the board.
Any comment online?
No comments online. I do want to note that Commissioner Morowit is online now.
Okay, welcome. Do we have any comments from the public? Seeing none, any discussion? Moved with their second.
Easier to get out here. See them a little bit more, have a second cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
in agreement.
thank you, Mr. Morowitz. We can take a roll call.
Thank you. Commissioners Marchand?
Aye.
Ardiola?
Yes.
Fugazi?
Yes.
Morowitz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Zuber?
Yes.
Chair Craig?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes on.
It's not as bad as getting cheaper in the morning.
Okay, so are you at the staff report?
Yeah, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. So this morning, we're gonna talk about a project that we've been running. We've had a few updates over the course of this project for you, and we're here to ask you to adopt the signage manual as the sort of the culmination of this part of the work. But just to take a step back, one of the as the Valley Rail program progresses for both the Rail Commission as well as the JPA, one of the key features that staff is trying to overcome at the direction of both boards is really taking areas of dissimilarity between the two services, between ACE and the San Joaquins, and trying to find ways in which we can bring the two services closer together so that the passenger, as they experience, especially sort of the joint corridor in the north between Stockton and Sacramento, that they have a consistent experience, that they're able to utilize the San Joaquins or ACE on either end of their trip sort of seamlessly without really having to do kind of like the hard work of trying to figure out, well, what sticker is on the side of this train, or what, how do I navigate this station? And so one of the items that staff has been working through is really trying to identify those areas of similarity, which are great, but also some of the areas of dissimilarity. And here's a list of just a few of those areas that we're working through right now. So signage and wayfinding, which we're going to talk about today, is one of those areas. Ticketing and fare collection, we've brought a few items to you about how we're working through sort of an iterative process, like leading to an easier ticketing and fare collection environment for passengers, as well as fare policy, some customer service differences, as well as customer retention and loyalty. It's quite different on both services. We have active projects, as you'll see today, for signage and wayfinding, as well as ticketing. And we'll bring other information items to you as we progress in some of the other areas as we get closer to the launch of service. For this project in particular, signage and wayfinding, at your January 2024 meeting, you approved a contract with Perkins Eastman to assist staff in working through this project. The project is in partnership with the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, so it's actually cost shared between both services. So we really took actually the list of all of the stations and said, well, who's going to pay what? How are we going to sort of equitably sort of split the costs of the project? And really it was generated because at the current A stations, if you were to go out to them, what you would experience is kind of a little bit of a difference in the way signage has been deployed at the stations over time. So as signage needs came up, someone started a project and they installed the sign to meet that need. But never has the Rail Commission had sort of like a full signage and wayfinding manual or program that governed how those signs would be made, installed, and designed. And really, that's why we started this project. And really, that's the end goal, was to produce a manual that staff would then deploy and which really govern that process sort of ongoing. And this is the milestones that this project went through to get to completion. First was an audit was conducted. So every single A station was visited. Every single sign was taken a picture of and cataloged within a database. And then we began going through, well, what did we see out there? And produced a recommendations report, which was really more about, well, how do we want to steer this process towards making manuals, a lot of decisions, including, are we going to end up with two manuals, one for ACE and one for the San Joaquins and one for Valley Rail, or how are we going to end up really adjudicating that process? And then we're here today at sort of the blue dot, which is the manual itself. And then we have one step ongoing, which is for Valley Rail, which is adopting this manual as well as some other features into the criteria document for the station design teams. And that's going to be going towards to the committee at their next meeting in March. So this is just a picture of the site audit process. Actually, in the top, that's us. We're actually at a San Joaquin station there, but the sort of the graphic here is of the Pleasanton station. And this is literally what they went through during the audit process, with really documenting even all of these signs, making sure that we had a process for refreshing them once this manual was completed. And in the end, what staff is recommending to you, and we recommended this also to the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, who approved the manual at their most recent meeting is to have a unified manual between the two services. And really that's sort of indicative of this value of trying to make the passenger experience similar. I think one of the things that we found through this process was that there are key features, both within the brand as well as within the goals of both services that are aligned and really do allow for that synergy to take place. And you'll see that as we walk through some of the signage types, that it really does seamlessly look like, hey, this could be an ACE sign, or it could be a San Joaquin sign, and there doesn't necessarily need to be that sort of distinction. One of the key focuses that we did have through this process was all of the different types of passengers that ride the service. So you might have a commuter who does this every day and they're like, well, I don't need any signs to tell me what to do. But we have a lot of passengers who are riding for the first time or infrequently, and they really do need sort of that extra help on their way throughout their journey. So there you'll see examples of that throughout the manual itself. So the manual was included in your board packets, and a pretty extensive manual, and it includes these chapters that you see before you. A chapter on principles, on planning guidelines, on some graphic standards, a signage catalog, as well as a signage location plan. So like sort of in like a generic station, how would you apply the manual? I'm going to walk through these chapters real quickly just to give you a sense for what's included in them. That'll give you a sense for how the manual is constructed. So we start with the principles. So as the Stations and Facilities Committee, that includes both participation from the Rail Commission as well as from SJRRC, as they went to identifying what would be the principles of design for the Valley Rail stations, we actually adopted those principles for this project as well, for that kind of synergy of what we are really trying to accomplish together as the two agencies. So really having a people-first approach. So again, having that sense of, well, what are all the passenger types that might be utilizing the stations, and what do they need at key moments in their journey? Really making sure that the signage is for the people that are going to be experiencing them. And also this idea of serving all. So you'll see examples in the manual. There's a whole set of icons that have been approved, or we are recommending for your approval, so that we really can have sort of signs that cross all language barriers, and really people understand how to utilize the stations, whether they speak English, Spanish, or some other language. There are also certain signs that we are required to include that are bilingual. So you'll see those are present in the manual as well. So having this design continuity, and we talked a lot about that already, this idea that this design continuity would be throughout all of the current stations, all of the San Joaquin stations, and all of Valley Rail stations. You have the sense that it all sort of like fits together in one system. Durability and resiliency. So there are like ways in which in the manual it directs staff on how to install signs so they'll last, the materiality of the signs as well. And then adaptability for the future. So really we know that today, as you adopt the signage manual, that probably tomorrow we're going to find a sign that we forgot to include in the manual. And so the manual also does include information on how to design a new sign in the future that we have yet to discover we need today. And really, so from the next chapter is the planning guidelines chapter. Really what this does is it explains how to apply the manual. So we have a lot of different environments. We have environments like Cabral, where we have a shared service, at San Joaquin's and ACE, both serve the station. We have stations like Lathrop Manteca, where only ACE serves that station. Then you have stations very complicated, like at San Jose Diridon, where there are a whole host of transit agencies and connections that are serving those stations. It really kind of helps set the stage for, well, how do you use this signage manual in those different contexts, as well as sort of gives you a sense for how to apply it in different parts of the station. So not every part of the station is the same. So what kind of information does a passenger need when they arrive at the station? What is the kind of information they need in the plaza space or inside the lobby, and then on to the rest of their journey? The next chapter is the graphic standards chapter. And this is that chapter I was discussing about, well, this is sort of explains how to design one of these signs in the future. So it includes all the colors that are approved to be utilized on a sign. And so the primary color is that middle blue color, which just so happens to be shared across both services. So ACE utilizes that blue color, and so does the San Joaquin. So it's an area of similarity between the two services. And we also used varying iterations of yellow as well as a part of our brands. And you'll see as we get to the signage itself that the yellow is used as like a beaconing tool. So when we really want like a passenger to see something and to understand that it's really important, we use that yellow color. It also spells out, well, what sort of fonts are folks allowed to use, how to use the different logos of the different services, and then of course has this large set of icons that I discussed previously. And then the next section is the signage catalog. So this is a really long section that includes like every sign that we could kind of come up with today. And not only are those signs helpful for context in the current corridor, but also in the future corridor. So there's quite a few of them. And there's a complete signage schedule by type. So there's different types of signs that need to be installed, things like wayfinding, but also like regulatory signs that we're required to have at the stations and how would you apply those. And then signage shop drawing. So there's a drawing for every sign that we came up with, so that literally in the sort of the, by installing these signs in the future, you would just take that to a signage shop and they can create the sign for us. And we'll walk through a few of these signs with you that are included. This is a wayfinding sign, more of a monument style that would be out like on the roadway, sort of as in the entrance of a station. We have one of these that's out here, like it's black, it comes sort of like a hexagon shape, like out here, like on the roadway at Weber. So that this would be the replacement for that sign. You'll see that you use this beaconing yellow to indicate this is a train station. And we use that train station, that train emblem there. And then you would include the station name, the address, and then the service logos have like an area. So this is adaptable, whether there's one service, maybe just at a station that's just a serves, or whether in the future other services, including local service, serves that station. Some contexts can't you really have enough room for maybe a large landscape type sign like that. So we have a more vertical sign that again sort of takes all of those elements but orients them in a slightly different way. So you can see that beacon very high and on top, as well as that other information cascading down. Not only is this meant to be used like in replacement of the previous sign, but also in the plaza space. Because sometimes you need that like extra reassurance, right? Yeah, I saw that sign like on the roadway, but did I really get to where I was trying to go? And this is a sign that kind of helps you along your journey, especially if you're a new passenger. Here are some directional signs that direct people throughout the station area, like how to find the exit, where do you find the trains, for stations in the Valley Rail corridor, where are the elevators and how do you utilize those, and really using a lot of iconography here to make the signs neutral to language for as many passengers as possible. This is a simple sign for, well, we may have stations that have two tracks. So which track is which, and then how, you know, as you hear the announcement, like train arriving on track 1, right? You know, like which one is track 1 as you're trying to make your journey along the East Corridor. Here's a more regulatory sign, just like spelling out that that you are being recorded at the station. This is a sign that we currently have, and this is a sign that we're required to have bilingual. Here is a no trespassing sign. This is a current sign that's been updated with some additional information on what to do if you do see a trespasser. Most of the time, these are like included in fencing, like within the right-of-way areas. Here is an example of signage. You know, so don't smoke, don't vape, don't skateboard on our platforms. And there's an example where the icons are enough. We don't need the words to accompany them, and strategically located up and down the platform to really direct passengers on what to do and not to do. And then in the last chapter, there are these location plans. And so there's location plans for all the sort of types of stations. So we're an overcrossing station and undercrossing station. Most of the stations in the current ACE corridor are side platform stations. That would be the most applicable to our current corridor, as well as what to do in the parking lot, how to apply this in the parking lot areas. And all of them include these various sheets that have both wayfinding as well as regulatory placements throughout the station area. The next steps for this project itself, so pending today's approval, a separate project is being planned to phase this manual into use across the corridor. Staff's recommendation is to divide the corridor into phases, because there are a lot of stations for both ACE and San Joaquin when you combine them together. And to really, we want to have economies of scale, but we also don't want to overload like a signage vendor, like with all of these stations at once. The initial recommendation for the first phase would be San Joaquin County, because it does include both ACE stations as well as San Joaquin stations, as well as the shared stations. So we'll kind of have a lot of learnings from that phase that we can then cascade onto future phases as that gets accomplished. And the contracts for that work will actually be brought separately, not a part of this project. This is a separate project. And the plan would be to begin installation in the summer timeframe. From a fiscal perspective, there is no impact to adopting the manual today, but staff does recommend that you adopt the resolution to approve the manual and its use in the ACE corridor. If we take any questions.
I appreciated all of the work that went into this because I did read through some of it and I'll save my comments until others. Do you have any public comment on this online?
Seeing that online.
And do we have anyone in the public that would like to comment on this? Seeing none, I open it to commission members. So, Mr. Martin.
Couple of questions, well, comments. First off, I was kind of intrigued. We have the no smoking signs. They're quite obvious. And then under shops, we got a pipe for smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought we don't want people to smoke, but here you can buy a pipe. And I can't remember the last time I saw somebody smoke a pipe. And it's gonna be at least 40 years, but it's kind of interesting how that stays within the culture. That this would be a gift that you would buy for somebody. Also, you see something, say something. I had to read what that one was because I couldn't figure it out. You know, look and shout.
Yeah.
So, on the page 148, it had the trespassing sign. Is that actually the phone number?
It would change.
1-8 billion.
It would change depending on what corridor like it's installed upon, like to get to the right authority to address trespassing.
Because I thought, wow, we've got that much coordination about all the agencies.
Yeah, right. Unfortunately, yeah. Good point.
Okay, good. I think those were the comments.
Yeah, and I would say, like, for some of the iconography, we really had to go through a pretty long, lengthy process of that, because we're not really making a lot of those standards, we're drawing from standards that have been created by other like commissions, and so adopting things that are universal across more than just like our service.
And it's also interesting, the different monitors and such, when you sit middle blue, that's purple. Maybe.
Yeah, right, yeah, it's very challenging for sure, yeah, but it's sort of like a deep blue color. If you see the new ACE livery, it's the blue color that's kind of like on the side of the stripe.
This monitor, it was purple. Now,
okay,
it's blue. So okay, got it.
Little challenging, yeah.
Other comments? Yes, Mr. Eric.
Thank you, Chair. Fantastic. I much appreciate this. The only comment I had was, as I was perusing, I think I saw misspellings for trespassing. So trespassing has 3 S's, not 4. And the only reason that it caught my eye is because the old courthouse has the misspellings.
Oh, God.
I see every day at work. So it's something to keep in mind.
Okay, yep, we will double check that.
Any other, my comments, just a couple of questions.
Yeah.
I appreciate it because the first thing I was looking for when I was pleased to see the Braille options, because that was right up front center, and then the Spanish. As I think about the Braille, because this is not an experience I've had, but is there any standard for audio options? Because there's only so much Braille you have. So I don't know if we have something online, or I'm just curious how we handle those.
Yeah, so a couple of components there. One, there are like PA announcements that are made like throughout the station area, like kind of directing passengers on what's occurring. But in the very last page of the manual is one page about a technology called NovaLens, which is a new technology that uses these very specific QR codes that are read from actually a pretty far distance by a smartphone, and are actually being like tested in different environments by sort of the sight impaired community to help guide them. And it actually provides them like very specific information. So, if we put it at, let's say like the walkway to the platform, it would say, kind of like in feet, like how close they're getting to that place. We're looking at starting a pilot with Sac Valley Station, which is a very complicated environment. So it's kind of like the worst case scenario to really try to continue to progress that work, and then consider adopting that in the future as something that we would install at our stations as well.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah.
One of the things I did note, and maybe if I missed it, I apologize, but having been a metro provider for years, one of the things that was always helpful to me is when I got off the train and I was exiting, where the heck am I? You know, where's downtown? You know,
Yeah.
so I get out, I'm standing there. Do I go left, right, straight ahead? Do we have exit signs? Not exits, exit, but exit in terms of the community out in the community.
There are some signage features that we're looking to adopt, sort of adjacent to this project, like, you know, we have like a very large, sort of like right on the other side of this wall, that's why I'm pointing there, but a very large like poster that explains kind of like what you do at an A station. At the future stations, there will actually be kiosks that will have dynamic information that will help orient you, like, hey, like you're here, like the rest of the town is over here, right? And so I think that we really need to one of the projects we're starting is figuring out a way to adapt our current signage to include some of that ability. Yes, we will have signs that say, here's how you get out of the station, but we really need to provide people more information on, well, what happens when you like get to the sidewalk.
Yeah, and I think you do that via maps. I mean,
Yes, exactly.
Devices, but it's very helpful to at least get them on the right path.
Yes.
And as I think through that, it's just whatever it is that you're gonna do that would be the kiosk, I think it could work nicely. It also ties into, we talked previously about the customization at each station. So if you're in Elk Grove, there's an elk. You know,
Yeah.
So it seems to me that might be a good location to put that branding that's unique to each of those stations as well. I think that's where we tie both of those programs together.
Absolutely, yeah. So like above the shelters, there is a sign that says like what station it is, and that's also a location where we'll be putting that elk, you know, as like an indicator.
Right.
And there'll be other locations throughout the station, but yeah, really good point.
Well, I appreciate that. So we have this in front of us. Do I have a motion to accept?
I move to adopt the resolution.
Second,
Okay, first and second, we need a roll call.
Thank you, Commissioners Marchand,
Yes.
Ariola,
Yes.
Fugazi,
yes.
Morowitz,
Yes.
Vice Chair Zuber,
Yes.
Chair Craig Hensley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Moving on, item 8.
Mr. Freeman.
Welcome, Mr. Freeman.
All right. Item 8 is to adopt a resolution by the Board of Commissioners of the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission adopting the California Environmental Quality Act addendum and findings of fact to the final environmental impact report for the Stockton Diamond Grade Separation Project, confirming environmental clearance, approving the project as revised, and authorizing the executive director to execute any and all documents related to the project, including approving any and all amendments thereto within her spending authority.
Which we needed to read into the record.
So I'm Matt Friedman. I'm the project manager for the Stockton Diamond project. There we go. So the Stockton Diamond Grade Separation Project. Oops. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. So the Stockton Diamond Grade Separation Project at its core is a congestion relief project. It's going to grade separate the two Union Pacific Railroad tracks over the two BNSF mainline tracks. The existing Stockton Diamond that's shown in this figure to the right is located about a mile, half a mile to a mile south of here. And really what it's going to do is it's going to unlock the most congested at-grade rail-to-rail crossing in the state of California and provide congestion relief not only for the rail lines, but also for the 14 grade crossings that are within the 1 mile radius of this area. So allowing for vehicles to stop having to stop at the crossings as frequently, and also providing emergency and first responders with through access through all these crossings in the vicinity and in Stockton. As with all rail projects, especially on active rail systems, unlike other projects, we have to maintain operations continuously through construction, which adds a high degree of complexity to the project. We have 14 construction stages that allow for this continuous operations. And with that, it requires us to basically shift the two Union Pacific tracks 180 feet to the east. So that way we are able to build all the tracks, all the infrastructure while they're in operation, and then we end up cutting it all over and that's why we have those 14 construction stages. The project is approximately 1.4 miles in length. It involves 8 bridge and culvert structures and has 14 different retaining wall structures that total up to 1.3 miles in length and up to 35 feet in height. So it's a very significant project. Going back to the beginning, in 2021, we released a notice of availability for the draft environmental impact report for this project, which had alternatives identified and all the mitigation measures. And we went out to the public and to the community to get their input. We met with stakeholders. We had public meetings with them to inform them about the project and the different alternatives. And we got all their input from both the community meetings, but also just through the formal comment period. And we incorporated all that input that we received and into the final environmental impact report with the alternative that was selected. And in June of 2021, the Rail Commission certified that final environmental impact report. After that, the California High-Speed Rail Authority, which is the NEPA lead agency. NEPA stands for the National Environmental Policy Act. I know we have an alphabet soup here of acronyms, but I just want to point that out. But they approved the finding of no significant impact for the project for NEPA, which basically unlocked our federal funding for the project. Oops, I did that twice. Okay. So subsequent to getting the Rail Commission's certification of the CEQA document, we started our final design activities, which started in October of 2021 and really have gone all the way through December of just this last year. Through this process, which is common for these types of large projects, that we identified some project variations. And we started to identify those in 2023, and we started reaching out to all of the stakeholders. One of which was the National Marine Fisheries Service, abbreviated as NIMS. And in November of 2023, they actually gave us a letter indicating that we needed to start a formal consultation with them, which we did. And so through that process of both the CEQA addendum and the NEPA reevaluation process, we coordinated with the City of Stockton, California High-Speed Rail, Union Pacific Railroad, BNSF, the California Public Utilities Commission, and NIMS regarding the different project changes that were identified as the design was evolving. Just this last year, December 2024, NIMS actually concluded after a year their formal consultation period, and they issued a biological opinion. And this was specifically for, and I'll touch on it on the next slide, but specifically for the area that we call the Mormon Slough, which is a part of the project. And then just for your kind of general understanding, the project right now is in the process of obtaining the approvals for all of the final designs that got completed last year. So just because we finished the design, we still have to get all the stakeholders. And so we're in the process of doing that right now. Okay, so there are 6 variations, broad category variations that we had and identified that are included in this addendum. The first one is related to basically the opening and closing of 2 grade crossings. So in the original final environmental impact report, Scotts Avenue was originally open and Lafayette Street was closed. Those are actually shown here just to the right in those red boxes, the locations. And so as part of the final design, we were required to go have a crossing diagnostic with the California Public Utilities Commission. We also have the railroads involved, the City of Stockton, and obviously San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission staff were there as part of that process. And through that, it was identified that it was actually preferred to have the Lafayette Street remain open and the Scotts Avenue Street closed. And the reason for that is multifold. One was the safety impacts, but also it was to provide access to first responders in a more convenient manner. And so we adopted those changes because For those of you who are not familiar, the California Public Utilities Commission is the state safety oversight. So they govern all at-grade rail crossings, actually all crossings in the state of California. So we require their approval for any modifications or new crossings that we have for any project throughout the state, including on this project. The second one was related to the Weber Avenue grade crossing, which is shown in this yellow box in this diagram, which is just right outside our door here. What we were doing here is that through that grade crossing improvements, we are actually shifting the tracks over. And with that, it was identified through the crossing diagnostics in a similar manner that if, for those of you who have driven out there, you'll notice that there's a big hump in that grade crossing. And so it was identified that we needed to remove that hump for safety purposes, which caused us to have to extend the limits slightly to the north, coming closer to the Cabral station here. And so what you'll see here is that there is a slight extension to the project limits related to regrading it and allowing us to basically get rid of that hump at the grade crossing. The third one, which I kind of briefly mentioned already, is related to the Mormon Slough. And so actually you can see here in this blue box, this picture, that is the Mormon Slough during a rainy condition. But so we, through the process of the design, originally in the FEIR, we had an open bottom culvert. So basically it would have been dirt. And for structural purposes and through the design, UPRR required that we have a closed bottom culvert, because in this area, we also have the 35-foot LCCF lightweight cellular concrete fill retaining wall structures that sit actually on top of this structure. So for structural purposes, they wanted a closed bottom culvert. And so we were required to implement that. But in the original FEIR, we actually had a mitigation measure that if we were making changes, we would need to actually go back and get a biological, we would have to consult basically with all the original folks that we originally had talked to during the FEIR process, one of which is NIPS. And in that, they identified that we would have some additional mitigation measures, which I will get to in the subsequent slide. The fourth one, so in the original environmental impact report, there was the area just south of the Stockton Diamond. We had assumed during the FEIR that Union Pacific owned all of the properties in that corridor because they were essentially operating and maintaining in that area. But through our final design, we actually realized that there were some what we call remnant parcels, old streets that used to cross across the railroad corridor. And these actually dated back to the old Weber grant from the original formation of the city of Stockton. And unfortunately, we also discovered through this process and the discovery process that neither the city of Stockton or Union Pacific had very clear documentation that either one of them owned it. And so we have now had to include this as part of our addendum so that way we can acquire these parcels, because this is also the area where, as I just mentioned, the big retaining wall structures are going to be located. The fifth one on here is the refinement of the property acquisitions based off of the final negotiations with property owners. So essentially in the final environmental impact report, we had both temporary construction easements and partial acquisitions identified for certain parcels. And through the negotiation processes with acquiring these interests, some of the property owners indicated that we actually needed to for various reasons, acquire them in full. And so with that, we incorporated some changes to the documents so we could acquire them in full, but also so that we could use them for construction staging areas, ultimately saving the project costs. So we didn't have to purchase other staging areas and other areas of the project. And then the final one here is refinements to the traffic, circulation, and crossing closures, and the overall construction duration from 2026 to 2030. And this is really just a function of developing the design, meeting with the city of Stockton, meeting with the railroads, and understanding more fully what the limitations were going to be in terms of what is going to be permitted, kind of going back to those 14 construction stages I mentioned before about what was going to be permitted for the different stages and the durations. So In terms of findings, as I mentioned before, we, through the consultation with NIMS, they did identify additional mitigation measures that were needed. And really, this is related to future fish passage should hydrologic connection ever be obtained through this area. And so through our discussions, coordination with them, it was identified there's another project in the area that is studying providing hydrologic connectivity to this area. So it's not part of our project, but it's a separate study. And so through this, we were required to now provide mitigations related to this, so that we would not preclude it in the future. So through that, they identified that if for some reason they were able to restore this by the time we were in construction, we would have to do some annual reports for them. And then we would also have to have our construction activities mitigate some of the measures to ensure that we were not impacting that habitat. So, and then because we have the closed bottom culvert, we also were required to have what they call mitigation bank credits. So what it is basically a purchase of credits. So that way in other areas, they're able to restore habitat because we're no longer able to do that because of the closed bottom. So the dirt that would have been there originally would have still been considered a suitable habitat for the fish, but because we now have a closed bottom, it is no longer. So the analysis has been provided in the addendum to demonstrate that there are no new significant impacts resulting from all these project variations after we've implemented these mitigation measures, and also included the same mitigation measures that were already identified in the 2021 FEIR. There is no fiscal impact related to this. And I'm happy. Do I take questions now, or do I wait till? Okay, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Let me move to public comment first, and then I'll come back and do questions and deliberation.
Seeing no comments online.
Okay, any from the public? Seeing none. Commissioners, questions, Ms. Fugazi, you take the floor.
Yes, so I find it interesting that you had to involve the fishery service, marine fishery service, only because I'm thinking about the last time there was even water flowing through the slough. And when I think about what occupies the slough now, I don't know what could survive in those circumstances. So, I mean, why are we having to jump through all these hoops for marine biological species that have not held that space in 2 decades? I don't know, or further than that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's been 100 years or more since that.
1909.
Oh, sorry.
There was sewage.
Yeah,
That's
that's-
the last time the diverting canal was instituted, and so that's where all the water flow goes. But I'll help you out here. I did look at this early on, like what in the heck? But I found that Army Corps of Engineers upstream had this same issue, and they did not prevail. And they tried to work through the federal process to see, like, hey, that we've got 100+ years of no water flow, but they didn't prevail. So I knew we are not gonna be able to bark up that tree and win. So the team did the work. We do have to do a little bit extra, but I don't see a way that we would get out of it.
I mean, it just seems like a waste of time for everybody and expense. I mean, I would like you to find a fossil somewhere in there to actually show, you know, that there was an existence of marine life there at one point. So good luck with that, but you know, I'm just sorry, it just boggles my mind that we had to go to this extreme for that, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm taking the same.
So if I can speak to that, we had an interesting example. There was a car dealership you're gonna go to, and on the original site there was an old shack, and there was a leaking pipe. And the leaking pipe, the Army Corps decided that this created a wetland, which then connected to the waters of the US.
Sorry.
Don't ask how.
And it just, and then we had to buy mitigation land. And then that mitigation land, they had to buy another 10 acres of mitigation land. So because of the leaking pipe, they determined it's created a wetland.
No
And
common sense.
common sense isn't. So, yeah, but to your point, some of these very, very tenuous connections can be made. And it is really remarkable. But I thought the same thing when I read through this, like, really? I'm not a marine biologist by training. There's no marine fisheries out here.
Right. Okay, I was just gonna follow up and say, you know, this is so familiar to me because ag land goes through this all the time when there's no running sources of water, but because of wet conditions at any given point in time. Certain light grows there and then people hear about something that's a minute, you know, entity and that's the project. So it's unfortunately not something we're unfamiliar with in this area. But I did have a question on the last item relative to the mitigation. We talked about banking mitigation credits or going in lieu. So that is an action that we would need, that Rail Commission would have to decide. Have we had
At a later
experience? Yeah, at a later date. Have we had experience, you know, which is in favor or the best solution for us? I'm just curious if we've used this elsewhere.
We've generally worked through SJRRC.
Right,
To,
that's what
yes,
I
they're
said.
kind of everyone's one-stop shop, and
Yeah.
that seems to be the best
Okay.
course of action.
Okay.
And we haven't identified a path separate from that yet. It's not to say it couldn't happen, but so
Yeah.
far that has been, okay.
Okay, and that's what I was actually going to ask you on that, so I appreciate that. Mr. Freeman, thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
Move to adopt.
Move to adopt.
Okay.
Ms. Taylor, Ms. Super.
So if I may, for purposes of the record, the motion should be to make the findings that are set forth in the addendum and then the adoption of the addendum.
So moved.
Thank you.
And so also seconded.
Sure.
Thank you. This is for regular voting members only. Commissioners Ariola,
Yes.
Fugazi,
Yes.
Morowitz,
Yes.
Vice Chair Zuber,
Yes.
Chair Craig Hensley.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so we are moving on now to item 9. Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
You still got it.
Oh, you're still got it. Okay. All right. Moving on to item 9, do you need this to be read in the record?
We do not on this.
Not on this one,
Not on this one.
okay, so item 9 for agreement with California Water Service.
Yeah, so this is for basically the advanced material procurement for Cal Water utility relocations associated with the Stockton Diamond project. I'm Matt Freeman, project manager for the Stockton Diamond project. Similar to how I described on the last item, so this is really a congestion relief project.
Yeah, I think we could.
We can just go on? All right.
Right.
All right, so utility relocations. So we have 13 different utility owners that are impacted by our project. And in general, we categorize these in 2 categories. Utilities that self-perform some or all of the relocations, and utility relocations that will actually be performed by either our design consultants or our contractors. And so the main difference that's important to us from a project delivery standpoint is that with the utility, when a utility self-performs the relocation, it's very important that we coordinate with them early. And ideally, we are trying to relocate them in advance of our major construction in order to avoid delays and to make sure that they're out of the way for basically all the future work from our contractor. And so in this case, Cal Water is one of these agencies that self-performs the design and construction for all the relocations. And so go to the next one. In November of 2022, the Rail Commission approved a resolution that allowed Cal Water to start the self-performing of their design for all the water relocations associated with the project. And we have been coordinating them along with our final design to ensure that they've identified the correct locations, that is not conflicting with anything else that we're doing as part of the project, and making sure that we are concurring with where they're proposing to do the work as it relates. So Cal Water, through this process, we've identified 10 locations that require relocation. And we have also been working with them as they've been moving towards the final design to identify both the costs and the duration of construction Because as I mentioned before, we want to make sure that they're relocated prior to major construction. So right now they are anticipating 1 year of construction to relocate all of these lines. And through this process, we've also identified, because we have federal funding, that we have Buy America requirements. And with that, these materials tend to be long lead. And so we are wanting to move forward with allowing them to purchase this material. So that way it is ready to start construction as soon as we're able to get the full construction agreement in place. And with that, I will pass it off to Autumn.
Thank you, Matthew. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. This is my first time in front of some of you. It's not going to be the last, because I do present the procurement process for this item, and then for every other item after this will be up here. I'll be up here presenting that. So I'm Autumn Gowan. I'm the Procurement and Contracts Manager here for the Rail Commission and also for the JPA. And the staff report is really detailed, so I'm going to just touch the main points and then go forward. So in the procurement manual, section 7.1 sets forth the criteria that allows us to determine what a sole source is. That is when the sole source is the only known source of supply with the capability of meeting the specific requirements. And such an immunity to competition is created when an award would create a waste of funds or a schedule delay not owing to poor planning. So based on that criteria, it is in our best interest as the Rail Commission to enter into this agreement with Cal Water, because Cal Water is the owner, as Matthew explained, and they require their forces to perform the work. In essence, there is no competition. We're not allowed to bid out this work. And then further delaying that would create a substantial increase in costs and delays to this project. So the Procurement and Contracts Department and a director have confirmed that this procurement qualifies. There is budgeted funds available and legal counsel has been consulted. The contract will be effective upon execution by both parties. Funding for this phase in this project, this is in the right-of-way phase of the Stockton Diamond, is using State Transportation Improvement Program funds, so STIP, and SB 132 funds and Measure K funds. There's approximately 51.1 million for this phase. We have currently 8.2 million in encumbrances, which remains about 42.9 million. This agreement's $1 million, and then we'll have about 41.9 million remaining in the right-of-way phase of the Stockton Diamond. And with that, staff recommends approving this agreement, and we would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment online?
No comments online.
Any comments in the room? Seeing none, I will turn it over to the board for any question. Seeing none, I will accept the motion.
Move to approve the resolution.
Sir,
Second.
and we have a second from Mr. Morley. Vote.
Thank you. This is for regular voting members only. Commissioners Ariola,
Yes.
Fugazi,
Yes.
Morowit,
Yes.
Vice Chair Zuber,
Yes.
Chair Craig Hensley.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Item 10, outreach events update. Yes.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Happy Friday. Welcome to Stockton. I'm Renee Gutierrez, part of the Communication Engagement and Marketing Outreach Team. Today, I'm going to share a life of the outreach team.
Tagging on to this again.
Yeah, jump on the bandwagon. No, but let's just kind of give you a heads up of what we do every day, every week, all year, and things change every so often. So we're a fluid team, a small and mighty and growing. So a key part of grassroots outreach is having an ACE informational booth staffed by your local outreach representatives and our Rail Commission staff at community events throughout the entire ACE corridor and beyond with our Valley Rail expansion project. These booths are staffed by knowledgeable staff who can answer questions about transit connections, pricing, group trips, special train services, and any other special offers that are available or forthcoming in the future. Rail Commission teams participate in community events that are ranged from hundreds to thousands of community members. So we're excited to be in your community. We're meeting new riders. So here are some of our outreach event goals throughout the year. We want to go ahead and increase community engagement and brand awareness to new audiences. We understand that the commuter commuter patterns have changed greatly, so we have to think out of the box on finding new ridership, and that means going out to different places. When in the past, we did not have to do outreach and marketing by services. Last month, you heard about our Klaviyo email program. So we want to grow our Klaviyo email subscription list so we can continue to provide them information with service expansion information, discounts, and so on and so forth. We want to identify and develop partnership opportunities with our travel destinations, nonprofits that can help us multiply our messaging, because I can't be everywhere. So we're always looking for champions to be able to help us with that effort. And this is also an opportunity to provide visitors to leave information, their contact information with us in order to receive more information on giveaway opportunity on social media. It's very exciting on the San Joaquins and ACE. This is one way we're trying to engage more on our media platforms by having giveaways. So we want people to sign up so we can give them more information and learn about our cool, awesome giveaway contest. And then this is also a forum where we can get community feedback on recent ridership experiences. I in the past have provided information and comments over to our operations team, customer service. So this is an opportunity for us to hear firsthand from our passengers. Staff also participates in smaller, more intimate stakeholder events. State of the Cities are some nonprofit presentations. And this is an opportunity to directly engage with many community resident leaders like yourselves to promote upcoming marketing campaigns, special train services, and we educate folks to reduce the barriers to increase ridership and also encourage your sphere of influence to ride the service in the future as well. I just want to highlight these are some of the events that we participated this last fiscal year. It's very difficult. We have hundreds of thousands of pictures. I was like, how can I put 3 pictures in here? But this is just a wide variety of events that we've been to. A transit-oriented development project here downtown Stockton, with our partnership with Visionary Home Builders, with our Realtors Association along the ACE corridor. This is myself and Tracy. And then like one of our partners with the ACE CAP program, Family Resource Center. This is Linda and Carmen on our outreach team, making friends, building partnerships, just to help us multiply that messaging going forward. I will give you a glimpse of our Zoho event management process. We use Zoho CRM. It's a customer relationship management tool. So we developed a digital survey through Zoho survey to identify events, review events, do a internal cost benefit analysis of events, learn as much information about events before we commit to participating. And then after we participate and engage, but in the community, we put together a post event summary report to find out what our outcomes were, what our return on investment was, and should we continue to do this event next year. So this is just a couple visual aids from our portal. As you can see, we manage events for the San Joaquins and ACE. The San Joaquins side has 4 outreach teams, covers a little over 53% of the outreach activity. On the ACE side, you have 1 outreach team and your small mighty internal staff. So we complete about 46% of events. So out of the 92 entries this fiscal year, about 40 events happen along the ACE corridor promoting Valley Road expansion, ACE special trains, and so on and so forth. So if you ask me, we're doing pretty good. Next visual aid kind of shows you the type of events we go to based on their classification. We do a lot of community events to meet new riders. We perform a lot of stakeholder events trying to create champions in the community. We also work with our university college partners and transit partners as well too. Going forward, we just, like I said, this is the always changing environment. We added new categories for DBE, support our procurement staff to educate the business community on how they can be part of our millions of dollar funding opportunities. We support the track program with Tamika and Macon at their events, Samara with their Title VI civil rights outreach events too. So we do a lot to support other departments as well too. So it's just not about our marketing promotion. So this is how we categorize events. And this helps us determine where we need to do more, right? If we see less on our transit partners, like collaborations, let's go out and reach out to our transit partners. If it's like employer development, let's go do more with our employer development. So this helps the outreach team be more efficient and kind of spread the resources out there within the community. Regions being represented, we have Northern California, Central, Southern California, the Tri-Valley area between the San Joaquins and ACE. But obviously with Valley Road expansion, we've been able to do outreach events in the San Sauce area as well too. So this kind of shows us where we're at and where we should be going forward as well too. So it helps us, again, like I said, become more efficient and participate in more events in those areas. So on behalf of the communications, engagement, and outreach team, we want to thank the board, our leadership team on the Rail Commission, all the department managers for the continued support and volunteering and participating in our events, joining the marketing team. But this is a list of our upcoming events that we are engaging with. And these you'll find in your marketing and outreach consent item staff report. So if you see an event that we are not out of and it should provide great outcomes, feel free and send them over to myself and we'll definitely review them and see you out there. It's open to any questions. Oh yeah, and by the way, I did leave some lapel pins, so we want you guys to be champions for the service, which most of you guys are, and looking forward to engaging with the new commissioners out in your communities as well too in the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Questions or comments, suggestions for Mr. Gutierrez? I would add a couple. So we have our biggest event in Lodi, the street fair is always the first weekend of May and the first weekend of October. I would recommend that versus our farmers market, just because there's a much larger crowd that comes regionally. A lot of people come from Stockton for that event. So I think that's a great place. I can give you the contact information from the reach at the chamber to get a booth. And then of course, the other big event with us is our Lodi Great Festival in September. And having staff who's there before, we get people from all over the place that certainly could benefit by having rail, and frankly, it'd be nice to have rail that stop in Lodi, that could have people come off and go to these events, and something I will continue to work with our director to see if we can really get that happen. So, but I appreciate that, and glad to see the SBDC because that was one of the ones that I was going to ask the question about. So,
yes.
I was gonna ask the railroads if we could do the hand carts, so then we can provide it. Working on it.
Okay. All right, I appreciate that's great information for us. Thank you very much. Okay, board member comments. We are on item 11. Any comments? Anything you'd like to share? Yes. Oh, let's wait.
Yes. First of all, I wanted to thank Brian and Stacy for being so responsive. I have some very active members of the community that are concerned about things that are happening along the rail areas. I know that we're looking at putting up fencing, but it allows me to then be responsive to them, so I appreciate that. I also have had inquiries about the South San Joaquin station. I don't know if you can get me in contact with whomever I need to, but there are lots of concerns about, you know, the condition of that station, the lighting at that station, because we do have people that come in, and if the train is delayed or anything like that, and it's late at night, people do not feel comfortable, and we really always want to put our best foot forward. I want people to see Stockton in a positive light, and this station is so beautiful. I wish that we could replicate that in multiple places, and starting with that South San Joaquin station. But I know that you guys are all doing the best that you can with what we have, and as we move forward with the Stockton Diamond project, we're only gonna look better and better as we go along. And so just as we continue along that same vein, I just hope we can give some attention or put me in contact with whoever I need to speak to in order to get some attention on that much needed station.
Any other comments? All right, Mr. Moore with no comment from him? Okay. I just two things I want to offer to the commissioners. Mr. Zuber is already aware of this. We're coordinating a tour of the Lodi Energy Energy Center where our hydrogen hub project is gonna be happening. So any of the commissioners and more importantly even, and why I think it's important for rail is because we will have the Lodi station eventually going in close enough proximity that we really are thinking about how do we tie all of this together. They're terrific assets in that part of the county. So if anyone would be interested, we're setting up a time, just depending on the interest. So let Ms. Wilkinson know, because we'll coordinate through her for the rail commission on.
George, we can put in a hydrogen facility for buses and so.
Yeah, no, it's ours is, you know, taking a natural gas plant at end of life and converting it to hydrogen. And then, yeah, using it as a fuel source down the road for everybody. So, and the only other thing I would suggest is kind of relates to outreach. I mentioned this to Kanika before the meeting. This would relate to future track students, but talk about outreach. Let's remember our children too. Read Across America is in March. And Tamika's gonna find me some books I can take to the classes that are gonna talk about the life of an engineer or a PSR for that matter. So, you know, I think it's always good. Kids love to talk about, you know, railroads. So I think that would be a fun thing to do, but I always encourage people to participate in that.
Yeah, maybe there's a Clifford rides the train.
Maybe you should create your own.
Yeah.
That we can use. Yeah, that would be great too. All right, do we have any ex officio comments? Let's start with our ex officio that's online. Stan Cobb.
So I would note, Mayor Wallen of Modesto was online between 8 and 9 and didn't have to go. I don't know, Rosa, are you on the phone with anything to report on her behalf?
She has declined to be promoted to.
Okay, all right, so I think it's okay to move on.
Okay, so Caltrans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Tom Dumas, Caltrans District 10. Just wanted to announce that recently Caltrans and CalSTA released the 2024 California State Rail Plan. There is a proposed investment over the next years up to 2050 of over $300 billion to help improve the rail and transit connectivity and improve the lives of California people with more options for train travel and reduce congestion. I think it's an awesome plan. I just hope that we're all available to see all those funds come through and the changes coming. And there is a reminder I have. The Department of Agriculture has released a community wildfire defense program. Their call for applications are due by the end of February. There's $200 million available for this program to fund and develop community wildfire protection plans and implement those projects. So it's not just planning, it's the implementation of them. And I think with all the recent fires we've had in Southern California, if folks have the ability to tap into these funds and prepare for these kind of disasters, it would be an awesome opportunity for them. But again, those are due at the end of February. Hopefully folks have heard about them, but if not, there might be time to scrape something together to get it in there to apply. And the information for that can be found at www.grants.gov. Again, under the Department of Agriculture. But that's really all I have. Thank you very much.
How about SJRRC? We're doing on today. Yeah. Ms. Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As many of you know, the San Joaquin Council of Governments wears a few hats, and I wanted to talk about two of them. The first one is our role as a local transportation authority, where SJCOG administers the Measure K program. I wanted to share that at the last SJCOG board meeting, there was a robust discussion on the Measure K program, which is fiscally healthy. In the last few years, we have seen an uptick in Measure K revenue, and that has resulted in a pot of uncommitted Measure K funds available for projects and including cash reserves.
The discussion at the board meeting had some key takeaways I wanted to share with the Rail Commission. One of the key takeaways from the board discussion was the emphasis that this may be an opportunity to discuss and work with all of our agencies in determining whether a process should be developed on the additional funding in Measure K that is being held in reserve. The key here is could be an opportunity to put more dollars on eligible Measure K projects. The board emphasized that this process would be something that is a constant at COG, which is it would be collaborative and it would welcome feedback from all agencies in the development of such a process. The second emphasis was that the key driver of this process will be project need and urgency. While we all recognize additional revenue is an opportunity, it isn't an opportunity to spend revenue without tying it with urgent projects that don't have any other funding opportunity, and projects that need a one-time infusion of funding. So those were some takeaways by the staff from the board discussion, and we're excited to embark on a process to identify those urgent needs in the Measure K program. The other hat that SJCOG wears is the federal role. And in that federal role, we are the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO. With the Trump-Vance administration, there certainly are changes underway, and I can report that we do not know definitively that there are federal funds at SJCOG that are being rescinded. Rescinded means taken away, deleted. There is no news that any of that has directly happened. At this point, with the Trump-Vance administration and the developments in DC, there certainly are more questions than answered, and we're monitoring that closely. A few things I wanted to highlight for the commission is that the SJCOG board at its meeting in February will be updating its federal legislative platform for the One Voice Washington, DC advocacy trip. This is something that the board updates every year in advance of the May trip, and we will be making some recommendations as staff to connect those federal legislative principles with the Trump-Vance administration. Also related to what's coming out of the administration, there is a pause on certain funding grants that are under review. It may or may not affect a federal grant that SJCOG has recently secured. I think the emphasis COG staff wanted to say here is lots of questions, and we're deliberatively working with key contacts at the Federal Highway Administration to determine impacts to any grants at SJCOG and any federal funding for our member agencies. We don't have any information on that happening right now, and we'll keep anyone posted if there is any definitive information. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, and on to RTD.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to continue the theme about the life of an ex officio, but I'll spare you of that. Just kidding. But I would like to congratulate you as the new chair and, of course, Vice Chair Zuber. RTD recently compiled and released a short video on social media promoting the use of our local Route 40 to access local businesses along the Miracle Mile here in Stockton. And this was a very collaborative effort with the Miracle Mile business people. The video also highlighted Shop San Joaquin and Open Rewards app. And this is an effort that aligns with RTD's goals and initiatives to foster meaningful public engagement, supporting economic growth throughout accessible transportation options. Another quick item here is on Sunday, January the 26th, RTD implemented several service changes. It's all about designing to enhance our efficiency, accessibility, increasing convenience, ridership, improving overall service efficiency. And I just want to add, it's very far-reaching, these changes, but a couple of very important ones are the augmentation of our weekend service for the hoppers from Stockton to Lodi, and then Stockton connecting Lathrop, Manteca, Tracy in that area. So I'm very happy to share that news with you. And then I want to share that we now have free Wi-Fi on all of our buses, including local, express, which is the bus rapid transit system, our hoppers, and of course our commuter routes going to the Dublin BART station and then north to Sacramento. Lastly, I would like to give you an update, and probably a lot of you know about this already, but in the past, SJCOG received a planning grant from Caltrans under partnership. As I understand it, Stockton will be taking lead. I've been in contact with the Deputy Director of Stockton over the redevelopment program. And so it looks like we're going to have our kickoff partnership meeting or stakeholder meeting, same thing. But the good news, it's a very collaborative effort that will include the Rail Commission, RTD, SJCOG, the City of Stockton, and others. And we're looking at the first meeting March the 11th, and it will probably be either here at DC Downtown Transit Center, the boardroom, or perhaps at the Cabral or at SJCOG, not sure yet. Stockton's looking at the different options. And then we're going to have a walking tour on the 12th, as I understand it, in the morning, divided up into two groups to go to the San Joaquin Station, Amtrak, and the Cabral Station, and then come back in a debriefing. So I'm very excited about this because it's going to look at the whole downtown area with rail, transit, and other options on not just connectivity for transit, different transportation modes, but also it's going to be looking at TODS, the transit orientation development, and infill opportunities, things like that. And that's real important, as we all understand and know, because that will help support the transit systems that we have, rail, bus, and other options. So that's a quick update, and would like to wish everybody a happy weekend. And if you have any questions, or if I can be any service, just let me know. I'm here to serve. Thank you.
And we're on our executive director.
A few quick things. Next slide. The passenger service group items are not over. Next slide, please. I'd like to, you're gonna need two more. I'd like to introduce Ono Prasadio, who is going to introduce our newest member of the passenger service group.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Onofre Preciado. I'm the PSR lead. And today I'd like to present James Chase, who is also a graduate from the first cohort of the Track C program.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I would also like to thank Mayor Ariola, who came out to see what work was going on at the shop facility a mile and a half north of here, where a lot was going on. And so he spent some time with Brian and I to really get a sense what we're doing for the Rail Commission, what we're doing for the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority. So we appreciate that visit. And then we're going to be doing some assessments. Some I've already started. I've asked some industry stakeholders and others to help us look at, we do what we do now, but as we go forward with the Valley Rail program, we see, and I think I've showed you this, a big wave of projects that will be going all at once. And that has implications to our structure. How many contracts can we pump out, amendments, task orders, when we have, say, a dozen large projects in play. And some of these projects are in the $100 million range. And so Angela Miller of our fiscal team reminds me, that could mean $40 million a month needing to go out the door, which is quite a change from our usual, what, Brian, 2 projects a year, 20, 30, 40 million. We get into this other territory. We have to be braced to be able to meet all those demands for processing payment. And then oversight, as you know, we are expected and have the responsibility to keep all those things moving. So I will be bringing more of those recommendations to you, and I will probably be asking people to reach out to you on various topics that I know you are familiar with, and I'll give you a heads up before those calls come. But just to get perspective on how you see your part in that too, so that we can have a really good comprehensive plan with your when that hits. And probably it starts later this spring, it ramps up a lot over the summer, it hits with crushing force, but probably in the fall. all that is really good news because it's progress on the program, but we do have to be ready. You come to this office and you think, oh, it's kind of small. And so we can still be small, but we have to have a structure that can really pump out that capacity. So I will keep you posted as all those conversations progress. And again, thank you for your time today. Staff appreciates it. Thank you for the passenger services team who are all here today representing your group very well. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have an update on item 14, Madam Attorney.
Thank you. We will not be holding closed session today. There have been some developments in the litigation, but I will be coming back to you in March.
Thank you very much. With that, we are adjourned. Good night.